Welcome everybody to the 23rd TILO Presents session on EdTechifying Your Teaching for Littles with Christine Danhoff. My name is Carrie Rathsack. I'm the integration specialist in Rossford, Ohio, Northwest Ohio, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. And we're so glad you could join us either live now or with the recording that'll be available. Again, for today's session, Christine will be presenting about K2 strategies that you can start using right away. And the session will be approximately 40 to 50 minutes or so, might go the full hour. So we will have time for Q&A if needed, or you can use the document that is shown here that's linked, the Google Doc. And if you also have a YouTube account, you can do the live chat on the YouTube page there as well. So I'll be monitoring both of those for your questions or comments that you have. Other than that, we'll move on to Christine and get started with her presentation. I'll let her introduce herself.
Okay, thanks, Carrie. It's nice to be here. Last week of school here, so Merry Christmas to all of you. My name is Christine Danhoff, and I am the Technology Integration Specialist at Genoa Schools. I work with pre-K to 12 students and teachers to help them integrate technology into the classroom. I've had lots of different experience, though, from being a kindergarten teacher to being a 5th grade teacher, elementary media specialist, Title I teacher, lots of different hats that I've worn before, which I know a lot of you probably have as well. So we're going to get started today, and one of my favorite things are those littles and finding ways that we can integrate technology with them. So I'll switch my screen over here so you can see it. And hopefully everyone sees that okay. So we're ready to roll. All right, so welcome to EdTechify Your Teaching for Littles. The link is here at the bottom, but it is also included on the presentation that Carrie had shared with all of you. I think the biggest thing that we have to remember when we're talking about integrating technology with young students is first having the mindset and believing that, yes, these kids can do this. We just have to give them the chance and empower them to try new things. So that's one of my mottos is, yes, they can do it. And you can see that little guy that's right there. He's actually a preschooler, and he was feeling very excited that he had completed some coding missions. So they're already doing some coding at 3 and 4 years old. Imagine what they're going to be doing when they're in the older grades. So a lot of my contact info is included on this slide, and you'll notice if you are following along on the presentation that there are some extra things added in the speaker notes, so that way you can have more resources that you can access at another time. So my Twitter handle is there, and my email, and you can follow me and find my website that's there. Please feel free to email me or send me a note anytime. I always love to hear what awesome things other teachers are doing around the districts around here or anywhere else across the world. So not only believing in your students is one of the first mindsets, is also believing that you can do it as well. I work with many different teachers at lots of different levels here at Genoa, and I think the biggest thing is I hear a lot of them will say, oh, I don't know how to do that. I'm not techie. I can't figure that out. But it's just that willingness to try something new, not be afraid to click on something, and just see how it's going to work. There's been plenty of times I know that we've tried some lessons with the younger students, and they have not always been a success. So you learn from those mistakes. The kids have no idea that what didn't go like you wanted it to, but being willing to try and do that again or change what you need to change. So my inspiration, why I have such a passion for integrating technologies with little, is probably because I was a kindergarten teacher for a number of years, and I also have a 5-year-old little boy right now, and he's in preschool. And I just want to make sure that these kids have the possibility to create things and experience things so that way they can do bigger and better as they get older.
Just checking if Christine, if you're still there. Looks like we lost her for a sec. She should be back in just a moment. Let's hold that thought. Again, we're gonna, hopefully we can get Christine back in very soon. You guys will just hold on. We'll see if she can get back with the link. I think we've got her coming back here, so maybe let's just wait and see. A couple more minutes. Let me see if I can get a hold of her. Looks like we've got the new Christine.
So sorry about that.
Right.
I have no idea how far you guys, we lost connection here at our school, it looks like.
I know. Well, glad you're able to make it back in, and we'll just, it was that yellow slide there. So
Okay.
in the middle of that, I just, all of a sudden there was no noise.
I did too. That was really interesting. Okay, so
Right.
we always have little, hiccups that happen along the way. So let's see if we can get back into that here.
Yep. And with the recording, I'll do my best to try to cut that part out, so make it look as seamless as possible, if that's possible. Those of you watching live, you can pretend like that never happened, or you can just say, "See, there's technology." Thanks,
Exactly. Not a problem. Thanks so much, Carrie. Hopefully it doesn't do it again. So starting here, let me go back here to the yellow slide. So inspiration, a lot of these ladies that I do get inspiration from have their own blogs and templates already created that are great for you to modify if you're just getting started with your students, how they're going to work with your kids. So a lot of them have some really neat things, and if you're on Twitter, I would highly suggest that you do follow these people, because the Gap for Littles from Christine Pinto, she does have a bi-weekly chat on Twitter, and you can even go back through the Twitter chats and get a lot of great ideas from her on there. So you get these devices. I know our kindergarten teachers, when they first found out they were getting Chromebooks, were a little bit nervous and didn't want the Chromebooks in their hallway at all. But they definitely had a change of mindset when they realized that we're going to work together through this, and we're going to see how we can make this work for the students as well. So you've got Chromebooks, or maybe you have iPads, or you have something else that your kids are using. So where do you begin with getting them logged in? So you have some different possibilities. I know different schools are different of how they have student logins. So you have some options here. So if you would click on any of these things, it's going to take you to a template that you can use for your own. These are just some sample templates of login cards. When we first started, our students had a generic just K login, so they were all using a shared login. And as we found out over a few months, that became very difficult when we started to have them do activities on the Chromebook, because we had to make 25 copies, a folder for each teacher, and it wasn't very manageable. So we decided that we were going to give the younger students a Google login. So now we do have Google logins district-wide K to 12. And our preschoolers do have a shared Google login. But as you can see, this one here, this was from Christine Pinto. She actually put colored paint tape on the side of the rows of the Chromebook keyboard, so that way students could see that the S would be in the green row, the M would be in the purple row, and so on. So if you have Chromebooks that are always assigned to students, the same student every day, and want to put that paint tape on there so that way students can find their letters more quickly, it might be very helpful. And then I know I've talked to some other districts that have started using the Clever badges. And how that works, it's free to use. Your Google admin would just have to set it up. And what happens is when the kids open the Chromebook or use the iPad, they would scan this QR code that is here, and then that will log them into not only the G Suite and Google products, but it's also going to log them into other apps or programs that your students are using in your district. For example, something like ABC Mouse, maybe they're using Teacher Monster. Depends on whatever the administration has set up for them. They can be logged in one simple scan of the QR code. So if you click on that one also, it will load up a sample one so you can try it out and see what Clever is all about. So these are just some sample videos of what it looked like. Now, this is later on in the school year with some kindergartners in our district, and they are demonstrating that it does take time at the beginning, but as the kids continue to practice, they are definitely going to be able to log in without a login card by the end of the school year. So I'll just show a little video here. Oh, it's maybe going to give me an error, so I might not be able to play it. We'll see if we can play this one. So as you can see, our kids did have login cards with their colors on it. And we made it a little bit easier by saying you're going to do the yellow word first and then the orange and so on. And that did help over time. And now we are continuing that again this year, and it has really helped with the students as they progress then through the first grade, second grade, and so on. It becomes so much easier. It takes tons less time than it used to, of course, when we were first introducing it to them. So getting logged in, of course, is very important. You want to get those kids in there onto Google Classroom or onto other sites. You get over that first hurdle of getting them logged in, even though the first month of you using your Chromebooks or iPads, it might just be you practice logging in and signing out until they're more comfortable with it and finding the letters and so on. But creating the content is the next part. And this is where there's going to be a ton of resources I'm going to share with you here that you can take and use. You can modify, get ideas to create your own. I'm trying to build this huge database of files that we can share amongst pre-K to 2 teachers across the state of Ohio and everywhere else. So when I first think about creating the content and creating these hyperdocs or lessons and activities with our younger students, we've heard of the 4 C's, but there is also something called the 6 C's now. And the 6 C's adds in the character education and citizenship. And digital citizenship is something that's really big with our students growing up in such a tech-based world of seeing these things since they were 1 or 2 years old, is how to use technology correctly. So I'm also looking at the collaboration and critical thinking part of it And definitely at this age, the creativity is so exciting to see what they come up with. So then after I have that in my mindset of how am I going to, where am I going to begin and what's my content, I have to remember that we have to allow those students to explore and experiment and give them time to try things out, because most likely if we give them time to figure things out on their own, instead of always being the model and telling them exactly what to do next and what to do after that, we want to give them that thinking time so that way they can process and figure problems out for themselves. So as a G Suite school, we definitely use a lot of the G Suite apps to help manage and create that activity and the content that we are sharing with the kids. So there's just some of the different apps that are out there that many of you are probably very familiar with that you can begin with when you're just starting to use the Chromebooks or iPads with your students. So a place that I like to start is when you're just beginning the year and getting kids to remember, how do you drag and drop? How do you make a capital letter on the Chromebook? These 3 templates are a great starting place, even if you're just starting in January or if you started back in the fall. Wherever it is that you feel comfortable starting with your kids, these little Camp Chromebook or Chromebook skills activities are very helpful. So I'm going to click on this one so you can kind of see what it looks like. This was one that I used with some students back in the fall, and it was just an intro. So younger students, especially when you're starting with pre-K and K, the touchpad is something totally different than using a mouse. And we do not give our kids mice. They just have to learn how to use the touchpad. But there's some different skills in here. As you can see, this one here, slide 4, is showing a little video of how to use the 2 fingers, because that is something that is very tricky for the little fingers to do. So the little videos in here were great. They had to drag and drop the circle and put it over the correct word. They have to drag and drop objects. And this one came from Coach Ben, I believe, is one of them. Yep, Ben Cogswell, that I found on Twitter. And I just modified and used with some of my students. So they practice typing in their name with capital letter. And as you see, it will progress through where are the number keys at. Can you type uppercase letters? How do you use the shift key on the Chromebook? So this is a great starting point. And I definitely would suggest not doing all of these at one sitting, but take it in small chunks and have the kids do a few slides each day, and then build up to wherever they are able to. So the one down here, this is from Nadine Gilkison. She was one of the ladies I mentioned earlier. The Art of Learning in Chromebook. She gets more into, on this one, probably for the 1st or 2nd graders, I would say, because it allows them to practice some keyboard ninja skills, we call them, where they're learning keyboard shortcuts of copy, paste, and so on. And there's some little videos that are included in here for the students as well as teachers. And I'm going to see if it's going to load or not here. But it also teaches the kids, this is a great skill, I think is one of my favorite ones, is if the kids have trouble dragging and dropping, the cool thing is that we always tell them, if you select it, click on it, use the arrow keys, because they can use arrow keys and they're pretty good with that. But that's just a nice way for them to begin moving objects without having to get stumbled up with the drag and drop with 2 fingers or dragging and it doesn't go all the way over. So this is a great activity as well. So I would highly suggest any of these beginning ones to get started with your students. So moving forward, you have all these tools at your fingertips. You have to decide, where do you want to begin? How is this going to make kids more creative? How is it going to allow for collaboration? So I've got some samples that I'm going to share with you here. And this is one that we did for, it was a kindergarten class, but I've also used something similar to this in a 1st grade class as well. You can definitely modify it. But we just took simple Google Slides, and Google Slides is a great place to begin with the younger kids, because they can easily manipulate by clicking on different slides over here. If you say, you know, I want you to go to slide 9 now, they're pretty good at recognizing their numbers by then, or they're learning it. And then once they get there, what I've done and what we did for this activity is they were studying ocean and then they were practicing addition. So we set up a Google slide where it has the lines, so that way the kids, as you can see, I'm trying to click on it and they're not going to move. So I'm going to show you how to do that, which is really cool, because we only wanted them to be able to click, we call it double click there, and type in their numbers of whatever they rolled with their dice. And then I'm going to show you how to do this as well, is how do you make a multiple stack of objects that the kids could click on and use their arrow keys to put onto the slide there, so that way they have manipulatives as they were practicing their math problems. A sample of slides of where to start, and I'm going to take you to how you do this, and it's actually called Edit the Slide Master. So we had done something like this in a different subject, so language arts. So you can do this at anything. You can see I'm in slides again, and the students were sorting short A and long A vowel words. And so we wanted to make a little table for them to sort these pictures and move them onto. So we didn't want the kids to be able to click on any of this, because then it will drag it off the slide and then it will just become a disaster. And the whole point of it is to see if they can figure out what are the short A and long A words. So we have to kind of limit what they're able to do there by only moving the object. So when you're in Google Slides, so I have a new Google Slides that I have open here. I'm going to edit the Slide Master, and that is found under the menu Slide. And then you go down to where it says Edit Master. So I'm under Slide and then Edit Master. And what's going to happen is it's going to load up all the different templates that are already included in slides. So you usually have a title slide, then you have one with bulleted items and so on. So I'm going to say I want to get rid of everything that is on this just first slide here. So I'm just going to click and drag over all of it and then press the backspace key and delete it off there, because I want a blank canvas to start with. Now you can or cannot do this. It depends on what you want to create this activity for. But sometimes we like to add a background. So I'm going to go up to the word where it says background. And you can do it by color. Sometimes if your students don't know numbers in Google Slides and you want to color the background of the slides, especially with preschoolers, that would be a great place to say, click on the yellow slide, click on the blue slide, because they are able to do that a little bit easier. So I'm going to just say, if I made it yellow, it would be that, or I can change it to an image, which is what you saw here in the ocean one. We made it the underwater ocean just to make it more fun for the kids. But I'm just going to make it a color, and then I'll say done. All right, so now I've got this here. How would I put something in there like a table or a line? So whatever I would want to put on that slide, so I don't have the kids move it around, I'm going to put on this Slide Master. So let's say I want to do a table similar to that short A and long A one. So I'm going to insert a little table in here. So that way the kids are going to be able to sort that. And then I didn't want them to move the words that were the headings. So I would put in there maybe, let's say, short E and long E, just for something a little bit different to do. You can definitely format the text and so on, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time showing you all that. So you can do all those things if you want and change the border of the table. So there's my simple table. This is all the parts that the kids will not be able to click on that slide. So once I get it set up, I can just click the little X or just click back over. Okay, and there it is. Now, if I wanted to use this slide again, if I go to the plus sign and the little drop down arrow, you're going to see that now that yellow slide template has been included in there as a slide master, so I could pull from it again. So if I needed to put another one of those in there, I could. So that's called editing the slide master, and it's such a very useful tool when you're working with pre-K all the way up to 2nd grade, and probably might be helpful for 3rd and 4th grade if you really want to do that with your kids. Now the next part is, how did I in here make a draggable stack? So I included in here in my presentation a little link to a video. So if you forget, how did I do that? You could watch it again, or you can go back in there. But let's say that I'm going to insert a little image in here. Okay. And I'm going to do a short E word. So I just typed in bed. Okay, so I clicked my picture. Now let's say for the purpose of this activity, let's say if we were doing math, or if I wanted to have multiple of this picture, I would put my picture in here, resize it. Now the cool thing about Google Slides, and why I like this so much for the little kids, is that you have this gray space over on the right and left of that slide. Now if you're on a desktop computer, you don't really see that. You have to scroll, but the kids, when they're on their Chromebook or on their device, will see that gray space. So they'll be able to see that there are pictures over on the side. And I could even make that gray space bigger by continuing to move my objects over. And now I have a scroll bar at the bottom. So I can continue to keep dragging over, and I can have as much space over to the left or right as I want, okay? So now let's say I need to have more than one bed for kids to be able to drag onto the table. So I select it and I'm going to copy it. So Control C, and then I'm just going to paste like 5 or 6 of them. So I'm just going to do Control V, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So however many like manipulatives or little objects you want the kids to be able to move onto the slide, make sure you have enough created from that draggable stack. So it doesn't look very pretty right now. So how do I get it to line up? You don't have to sit there and try and line each one up. You're just going to click and drag over with your mouse over top of all of them, and it will select them all. And then you're going to come up to where it says Arrange. You can align them to the left, and then they'll pop right over, and then arrange them to the top, and then boom. Now you have, when the kids click on one and use their arrow keys, you'll see that I have multiple pictures of a bed there that they could move on to the slide depending on what they need it for. So, which is very helpful, especially when you're doing math. So that's the draggable stack, and that's a great use of a tool for manipulative or just for sorting objects. All right, so getting into conditional formatting. So I'm going to show you a little sample of Google Sheets. Most of the time you don't hear very many teachers saying that, sure, I use Google Sheets with my students. Mostly it's for us as teachers for data collection and that kind of purpose. But you can use it for your students to kind of do self-checking activities, which is really cool. So I'm going to show you kind of what these students were doing, and then I'll show you that example.
Mr. Danhoff, I have to do this. I did my first one. Mr. Danhoff, I have to do this first.
So these students were doing an activity where they had to type in the beginning digraph of a word. So they would see the picture. They had to type in the digraph. And if they typed in the correct digraph, you'll see here that it turned green. And if they type the incorrect digraph, it's going to turn red. So that little trick to do self-checking is something called conditional formatting. So I'll show you an example of another one that we did here. So all I did was take a Google Sheet and just made some headings. So we said picture, word, and sentence. And this was where they were at. This could be used for, any age, for different topics, word families, things like that, however you want to set it up. Added a picture, of course. The kids had to look at the picture. Then they had to think, what is the word? And then they had to type a sentence. So this is my example one. So here they see the picture of a mug. So right now, all the cells are red underneath it because they haven't typed anything. But you'll notice when they click on that cell, and we talk about what a cell is, and when you see the blue line around it, that it is selected, so they can type in it. So if they went to type in mug, and they're tapping it out and thinking about the sounds in it, when they type mug and then click to go over to the next cell, if they type it correctly, green like it just did, which is really cool. Now, if they type it incorrectly, so if I say MEG instead of mug, you're going to notice that it stayed red. So it's a nice self-checking activity for the students. And how you would set this up is to conditional format something is you click on that cell, and then you're going to right-click on it. So on the Chromebook, just a double tap. Scroll down to where it says the word conditional formatting. And then you can see I have 2 rules that I had to make. So I said add new rule. And then we have here new rule. The text in that cell has to be exactly the word mug. And if it is, I had got the chance here to change the color with the paint bucket, fill color here, and change it to green. Okay, and then I added a second rule that said if the value of that cell is not mug, then that is going to turn red. So it was just a really simple thing to do. Setting up the conditional formatting is pretty much a quick thing to do. And we've even had some teachers now take it to the next step with their assessments. And they set up their assessments for sight words and alphabet recognition and all the different things they might be checking students on, and made it a nice, they could press a 1 on the keyboard and it means they got it, a 2 means they didn't get it. And then they have their data underneath very quickly instead of writing it on paper pencil and then transferring it. So really easy thing to do with the kids, and you setting up as well. Now this was another sample for math that I found from Christine Pinto and Corey Orlando. And it's just a number of the day, but it has the same things. Again, the conditional formatting would be over here, the color key. So if I was going to say I want to do the number 6 for the number of the day, and then over here they have to fill in the tens frame. If I want to do it in all green, notice I'm going to type the number 4, and then I'm going to tab over, do 4 again. If I pick 3, it's going to turn yellow. So the kids can use different colors, and it's just a matter of telling the computer that if they press 2, it's going to be orange. If they press 1, it's going to be red, and so on. So lots of different templates for using spreadsheets with students that are really awesome ways that you can have them do some activities and get some feedback right away. And then we have Google Forms, which is awesome to use. So I stopped the video there for a second. Google Forms is a great exit ticket, a quick assessment to see, did your students understand this? You know, and how do you get your kids to get on these Google Forms, which is cool. We had some kids, our preschoolers actually, I'm going to skip to the next one here. A nice, quick and easy way to get those kids onto a Google form, if you just want to do a quick exit ticket or a quick assessment, is to make your Google form, turn it into a QR code, and then as you can see here, these 3- and 4-year-olds, they went right up to the computer, or you could have it projected on your screen. Code, and then it took them right to this Google form that the little girl is looking at right there. And the way you can run it is multiple different ways. This example here, we had 2 different letters. The teacher told them that she wanted them to find the letter Y, and then they had to touch the letter Y and then go on to the next screen. With our kindergartners and first graders and second graders, you can definitely make those Google Forms a little bit more complicated as they go through. But such a nice way to get a quick idea of who really got that topic that we were studying, who really knows all of their letters, sounds, or sight words, and who maybe can tell me about the story that we just read. So lots of different uses for Google Forms, and the feature in Google Forms that now that allows you to make it a quiz option, it will grade it for you. So I always say if the computer can grade something for you, let it, and then leave those open-ended questions and feedback and response questions for you, those ones that then you can check on your own then. So here's an example of what all these kids can do. So I told our teachers that I was very thankful that they have always allowed me to use their students and classrooms to showcase and share with other people the great things that these kids can do and empower those kids to be able to create those things. And you can always tell that the kids are really excited when they figure something out and can create something to share with their parents or their community. All right, so this is one of the most important slides that you definitely want to click on and check out as you're on the presentation here. This is my whole templates that I've been pulling from different places, other educators, things we've created that you can either do by a searchable database. So I made it a searchable database as well, so you have the link for that. So you can type in a topic or a keyword that you might be looking for. Let's see if it'll load up here. You can see it already has some laid out here for you to begin with. And then you can look for, let's say addition. And then I see that here's some activities that might be worth checking out that are addition activities. So you can click on them and find them that way. But I would also highly suggest that you click on this file folder right here because it's going to open up your Google Drive. And then the next thing you'll want to do is when it loads up, you're going to want to click on where it says pre-K to 2 templates. And when you click on that, you will have a little icon that says add to drive. That way you have this folder in your drive. And anytime I would add anything in here, you will get that added into your folder as well. So this is where I think the biggest part of education comes in, is all of us sharing all of the cool things that we're doing with our students and trying to build this database so that way we can continue to help each other grow. So I do want to say that, you know, if you do create something and you thought it went great or you just want to share it back, please, please, please feel free to either share it forward using the links here, which will send it to Christine Pinto and her Gap for Littles template hashtag, or please email me or share with me your template. And that way I can add it into this resource here, because you can see that I've been trying to sort it out by different subjects. There's coding in there. I've been adding breakout EDU games in there. There's augmented reality and virtual reality resources in there. So there's a lot here. Watching today or listening, if you take this away and share it with anyone else that you know that's a pre-K to 2 teacher, please do. There's a lot there. So let's say you've got your kids logged in, they're experts at that. You've created some content, or you've just modified some of those things that you found in that template folder. Now the next part is, how do you get it to your students? And that's the question I get a lot is, great, that looks awesome. For example, that Google form looks cool. I know I can use it as an exit ticket, but how am I going to get it to my students? So there's lots of different ways and resources that you can use for this. Depending on what your district uses already, what maybe you want to try using in your classroom, you have some different options here. So you can see a lot of these options that are shown here, and you can click on any of these things and it will take you to some information or a link to it to get you started. I'm going to click on the first one that looks like a bunch of tiles. And this one is called Symbaloo. And when I used to teach in the elementary computer lab, I loved this because kids couldn't read the words, you know, TILOhio. They couldn't read the words, teach your monster to read. So this is a visual bookmarking tool. And I do have to shout out to our media specialist, Lizzie Wilcox here. Her Symbaloo is amazing. She's an awesome, organized media specialist. But I love what she's done here is she has broken it down so the kids, when they come to her or go into tech class, they can find any of these resources here. I'm at home too, which is awesome. So Symbaloo is a great one to check out. And then you have your options here, of course. If you're a G Suite district, you can use Google Classroom and post assignments to your students that way once you get them signed in. We've got one called the Share to Classroom extension, which I'll show you how to use in just a moment. Seesaw and Class Dojo are both independent programs. Depends on, like I said, what your school is using. Our district has adopted Class Dojo at the elementary level, but we have teachers now incorporating Seesaw as well for their students' personal portfolios then. And then we have the option out here that they can share, students can share, and you can share content through Flipgrid or Google Tone. So let's show you what some of these things are and how you would use it. So if you're not familiar with Google Classroom, this little boy is gonna show you a little bit how to do it. So this student, they've learned that, you know, they have to go to the bottom of the screen on their shelf, find Google Classroom icon. We use a lot of shapes and colors a lot to showcase, you know, look for the green rectangle, click on that one, and then once they get there, they have to click on their teacher's name. And we have assigned some of those activities that you saw earlier through Classroom. So kids can quickly get to it. Like I said, the more they practice, the better they got at it. And they needed little help when we would start doing activities. By first and second grade, the students are pros. They just know if you say go to Classroom, they can get logged in, get right on there. So if you start young, this thing is start young with the students, look at all the things they'll be able to do when they get into the older grades. So then Classroom, the kids see the Google Classroom icon up on their extensions as well. So this one is the Google Classroom extension. And it might be hard to see on the video here, but it's this one up here. And when I click on it, you have two options. You can push websites or a link out to your students, or students, if they have that extension on their Chromebooks and on their accounts, they can push what's on their screen back to you. Now, the cool thing with the push to teacher is it's not going to immediately show up on your screen, but you can accept it. So that way kids aren't just pushing things to you all day long and it's popping up on your projector screen or however it works. You get to say if you want to allow it or not. So when I click that extension, I see all my classes that I am either enrolled in or that I am a teacher with. And what I'll do is I would go in there to whichever class I'm in, and then it gives me the option that it says I can push to students, create an assignment, ask a question. So that'd be a great exit ticket on the fly. You can do that, or make an announcement. So let's say I have the kids, they're already logged in, they're members of my Google Classroom, which they do need to be if you're going to use this extension. And then I say, hey, I want to push out this, whatever's on my screen is going to be what's going to push to them. So if I wanted to go to another tab, I would go to that tab first and then click the push to students. Once I push it out to the students, it's going to tell me down here that I pushed it to them, and it's going to tell me if it was received by them or not. So they do have to be signed in, like I said, onto the Chromebook before they'll see it pop up in the corner. So what it will look like is a little bit like this. Oops, did not want to do that. Apologize for that. Skipped actually my next slide. Okay, so when you push it out to the students, it should pop up with a little picture on the bottom. Here it goes. And that's going to hopefully load it up. And that way they'll be notified if something is coming into them. So pushing it out. Now, if I am a student and I want to push something to the teacher, they would click on their extension and they would push it to their teacher. Oh, it must not like that. And the teacher would get a notification then. So that's the share to classroom. All right, we're going to go on to the next one. Another option, if your kids are not in, but they have the Google Tone extension enabled on their Chromebook, which is this little blue megaphone. So you can share a web link and get them all in the same place quickly by clicking this little blue button. So if I was to click this right now, anyone that may be an earshot of my Google Tone that I just sent out would be able to, they'd have a little picture pop up on their screen down here, And it would show them that they need to click on it to go to that link. So Google Tone is a nice, fast extension if you don't have students in Google Classroom already. So then once you have your kids creating and doing these activities, you know, maybe they did an activity and you said, oh, I really want to use this for a student portfolio, then you might have the option of trying either one of these, Class Dojo or Seesaw. They are both free. Class Dojo allows you to do student behavior, but it also does have a student portfolio option that kids can take pictures of work and draw on it and annotate different things. And then you have an option of an app called Seesaw. Now, Seesaw lets you actually upload an activity into there. It does tie into your Google Classroom. And if you're using tablets or even the Chromebooks, students will be able to write or type on the activity that you sent out to them. And it will go into a student portfolio that you will see in a stream. So you'll be able to see all the students in your class, kind of like their journal page, all in one quick spot. It's awesome because you can share it with their parents. If you thought, wow, they did a great job writing this sentence, or they used great descriptive words, you could actually click on their portfolio post that they did, an activity, and share it with parents just specifically so they can see that one activity, which is cool. So our kindergarten teachers and definitely our preschool are going to start trying to use Seesaw. And I know some other school districts have told me their first and second grade and older students, third, fourth, have even used Seesaw. And this is a sample of kind of what it looks like. So the kids scan a QR code to become a member of the class. And then from there, they could either draw with their finger on the iPad, or if they were on a Chromebook, they could type and use the cursor tool to draw and drag things. And then from there, the cool part about Seesaw that you can't do with Class Dojo portfolios is the students can record their voice. So it's such a great way for students to hear how they have changed over the course of the year. It's a great portfolio to share with parents at the end of the year so they can see the growth that their students have had. Another one of my favorites is definitely Flipgrid. If you've not heard of Flipgrid, I would highly suggest that you check it out. You can click on the link here or click on the other link and it will take you there. But it gives your kids a voice when you as a teacher don't have time in your day to listen to all 24 to 30 students share what they learned about a topic or share something exciting that happened at their house last night. Flipgrid is a great and easy way to have your students do this. So you can see on the setup here, Flipgrid just requires you as the teacher to kind of set up a little topic. You have a grid, which is kind of like a mini website. And then the students are going to click on the plus sign, and you can do this on an iPad or a Chromebook. So it's nice and easy. They click that green plus sign. And then once they click on the green plus sign, their webcam or the camera on the iPad or tablet, whatever it is. And then from there, the kids are going to make a recording. Now you can set the time limit, which is fantastic. So if you only want to hear 30 seconds of what the student has to say about something, you can set it that way. Or if you want to give them longer amount of time, you can do that as well. So this is a sample of a student. I love this. The kids love listening to each other and giving little emojis of how they thought the student did. And you as the teacher can even, once again, share that post, which we did with this parent actually, shared it out to the parent. And then you can even add comments and feedback to the students so that way they can hear what you thought about what they learned and you can have that conversation back and forth. So these kids were talking about a fall field trip.
Hey guys, today we're going to talk about pumpkins. My name is Tyler, if you don't know my name. Maybe you could, pumpkin's a type of material you can do.
So I won't play the whole video because you can click on it from within there. But it was such a great thing because we had small groups of kids all recording at the same time. So, you know, depending on if you set up a little recording booth or if you have a special spot in your room that's a little bit quieter, that would be a great place to have kids respond to different activities or different prompts that you want to ask them about. And you can see that we left the sticker option on so the kids could add stickers for Halloween and fall to their selfie, which becomes their little grid, hence it being called Flip Grid. And then they can all see this. We could share this link with parents if we wanted to. So you're building that community of parent and home, and you can even do something like this with your whole staff if you want to as well. So sharing is the biggest part of all this as well with those young kids and giving them a voice. So not only did I want to share today about how G Suite and slides and sheets and forms and all those things can be integrated with the younger students, but I think it's important to know that you can do all these other things with the younger kids too. So we have augmented reality and virtual reality, and you can kind of see the pictures scrolling through here. We tied it into the content that they were learning, and it was just something different for them to experience and explore. And we used some different tools, one of them being Google Expeditions. And I'll pause it there. But Google Expeditions is an app that you can use on Android or on iOS, Apple devices. And we didn't have the virtual reality headsets at the time, but we just used the iPads. And the kids, the experience, you could hear them squealing and getting excited about finding Arctic and Antarctic animals that we were studying in class. So we couldn't take them to Antarctica, but we sure could show them what animals are there and what does it look like and point them in different directions. So great way to kind of bring the content to life and make it more engaging for the kids. And then over here, this is augmented reality. They were studying space, and there is an app called AR flashcards, which they already have the flashcards for you to print out from their site, which we did here. The app is free, the flashcards were free, and then the kids take the tablet or device, whatever it was that they were using, and they just hold it over that trigger, which would be that piece of paper, and you can see the planets popped off the page. They could touch the planet with their finger, and it's going to tell them more about it, which was very engaging, exciting for them. So if you are interested in trying out some of these other VR and AR apps with your students, I've put some of the other ones here, and in the speaker notes, it will tell you what they each are, and so you can try them out. Many of them already come with papers that you can print out and the triggers that you can print out to go along with curriculum content. And then one of the biggest things we just celebrated not too long ago, the Hour of Code Week. And you're incorporating computer science and problem solving and all that with your students. We start as young as preschoolers because we know that kids are learning how to follow directions. They're learning about left and right and how do you figure out a problem and what do you do if the problem doesn't get solved. So computer science can tie into all the different content you're teaching. You just kind of have to look at it in a different way. So how have we incorporated that into our daily routines? I'll show you this video here. This is awesome. This is our preschool teacher, and she's using a robot called Bebot.
Now he's ready to go forward. I love it. How many times is he going to go forward? 1, 2, 3.
So the kids were actually doing their weather that's normally a part of their morning routine, and they were using Bebot, and she had made a simple chart here that they have to control and drive Bebot, give them an algorithm to get to that specific weather. So on there's little buttons. The kids had their fun hats on, of course, for that day. But she's incorporated into calendar, and then they even went a little bit step farther, and they do it with numbers and number of days of school. They have the robot Bebot drive to what number a day it is. And they also make Bebot move up and down who's all there today or how many students are there. So the possibilities with coding, that's just one part of it. But we've incorporated into language arts and storytelling as well. So these are some of the coding apps that are perfect for the younger kids. There's one called Codable, which can run on iOS and Android device, but also be used on the Chromebook. And you can track your kids' progress on it. So very, very nice way to start introduction to coding. The kids have to move an arrow and be able to get the fuzz to the specific exit point. So they have to come up with an algorithm to get them there. And then we have the Bebot app, which is similar to what you just saw there. Code Carts has become one of my favorites for the younger pre-K and K kids because they're driving a race car and they have to get to the finish line. But what I like about that app is that it has color-coded dots, so that way they know if they're going right, when they stop there, there's a dot that tells them, okay, what color is going to go next? Are they going to go up? Then up maybe is blue. So it helps them out visually to see what is the next step. So lastly, I want to close with this awesome resource, and I would highly suggest that you click on it. Christine Pinto put this together, and it's so important because it ties together this whole presentation of when you put technology in the hands of little kids, it's awesome to see what they can create. And this slides presentation she put together are different people, teachers from all over the place that are sharing what their kids have done. So definitely check that out so you can see some of the great ideas. And before I end, I just want to let everyone know that Genoa is hosting another GTech Summit, and we are going to be doing that on August 7th of 2018. Can't believe it's going to be here already. Right now, we're currently looking for presenters. So please share this. If you have some awesome people in your district that you think would have a great idea that they want to share with others, we would love to have them. So please do share the information that is here. Follow us on Twitter. Go to the website that's there and you can get some more information. But we had quite a few people last year, tons of great presentations, lots of door prizes. And so we're looking forward to hosting that again this summer at Genoa. And lastly, make sure that you believe that they can. These little kids can do all kinds of awesome things as long as you give them that chance. And like I said, if you want to connect with me, my information is here at the bottom. So please feel free to let me know, email me, send me a tweet anytime, and I'd love to talk with you some more. So thank you again for the time to present today, and I hope you all have a Merry Christmas.
Okay, thanks, Christine. So much. Yeah. You want to mute your microphone and I'll finish out here. And I want to thank Christine and all of you for participating and either watching the recording or the live session here. I want to just show you real quick that there is an evaluation form that'll be sent out with the email of this recording. And then also if you want to, if you see on the YouTube page here down at the bottom, there's a link here to the evaluation page, which will look like this. It's real quick. You can fill that out. We also have coming up tomorrow, there's another webinar. This is the TILO calendar page, but there's a webinar tomorrow with Dr. Mike Martin. He'll be presenting a session called Are You Techficient? So if you haven't signed up for that, you can do that as well. And oops, let me see if this is even showing. Here we go. Here's the TILO calendar page, and that's the link to it to register if you haven't yet so far. And other than that, if you would like to do a presentation in 2018, watch for a call to present either in January, late January, or early February. Try to get those out for anyone who would like to share some new, great, wonderful things. And again, I would like to thank Christine for her wonderful session. A lot of great information for K2 teachers and even any early or elementary teachers as well. There's a lot of good stuff there and some other things for any teacher at any age. So thanks again, Christine, and thank you everyone for watching. Have a great holiday, Christmas, New Year, all that good stuff too, by the way.